Morning, everyone. Just out here sitting on my deck, and I figured it's time that I do another video. I have to admit I've been putting this one off because I wanted to talk about a very sensitive subject for myself, as I'm sure it is for other people, on the topic or the emotion of self-loathing, and how examining those feelings can actually be a great act of self-love for yourself. I think a lot of times there's always things about ourselves that we don't like. Maybe an exercise, diet, we want to change something, or our behavior patterns. It's not a bad thing to want to change ourselves and to change something and to grow as a human being. I think sometimes, though, what we do is when we feel those feelings of dislike about ourselves or about parts of ourselves, we don't take the time to examine them because we go, "Oh, I don't want to feel that. That feels yucky. I'm not going to do it." So we sort of tuck it away, and then we do all sorts of things to make changes in our lives. And it's not that those changes are bad, it's just that we're not also examining the emotions behind those things as well. And from my own personal experience, something that I had to deal with in the last few weeks that came up, especially when I'm dealing with these pains that I have, and things in the medical arena are moving along a little bit more. I've had more tests done. I have more this week. But one emotion that I really had to look at was my own self-loathing. How much I didn't like my body, how much I was disappointed in my body, and to look at where those feelings came from and how some things that other people had said about me had affected that, and how I just hadn't wanted to look at that. And that's how I allowed a rhetoric of, okay, do more, exercise more, eat better. I kept replaying these things in my head rather than looking at the symptoms I had, the pain that I had, and the emotional pain that I was putting myself through at the same time. And it was a really yucky feeling. I'm not even going to sugarcoat that. I might be able to talk about it today without, crying. It was really a horrible thing to feel how much I didn't like myself, how much I hadn't given my body credit. And it all goes back to being, I was an athlete, and then I was in shape, and when I got pregnant and I had problems in my pregnancy, I had this idea in my head that because I was fit, my pregnancies would be a piece of cake. I'd, get through that. And that wasn't the case. And it wasn't that I did anything wrong. It was just the circumstances. It was just the way that it was. But somehow I felt like I had let myself down, or that I let my babies down somehow, and then I tried harder. I had 3 other children after my first, and I was able to lose weight in between some of them, but some of the physical problems and pains that I had just from being stretched out. I'm a very tiny person, and my babies were big. My biggest one, again, was 8'7". They were all well over, average size. And, I hadn't given my body the credit that it deserved for housing these beings and for giving birth to them and nurturing them, feeding them. I hadn't given myself credit. And, when I had gone to a doctor to talk about the pain I was having, and no one could physically, find anything, I didn't really look at the emotional pain, and I let what other people said to me. I'd often hear when I was pregnant, "Oh, how big I was," right? That was the thing that I heard, was just how big I was all the time. So I just have had these old stories running through my head, and I let them fuel how much I didn't like myself and how much I wanted to change. And the more that I've talked about this in the last few months, I've had friends who come to me and they say, you're one of the most conscientious people that I know when it comes to eating and to exercise and to taking care of yourself. Why would you feel as if you're not doing enough? And why would you feel like somehow you had to fix this on your own, that there was only one way to do it? And yeah, I had to look at that, and it was a lot of, because I just didn't like myself. I felt like somehow I'd let myself down, or that my body, it was really that my physical body had let me down somehow, which of course isn't true. It's doing the best I can every day. It helps me, it keeps me alive, it tells me when I'm hungry, it tells me when I'm not feeling well. It's been trying to get my attention for quite some time, and I haven't been paying attention. And now that I am paying attention, so what I'm saying is that it isn't bad to take care of yourself. It's also really good if you can look at the feelings behind what's fueling you to want to do something more for yourself or to tell yourself that you're not doing enough. And I think that with women, especially, although I've talked to some men too, and the whole self loathing thing also has affected them too. And, one of these days I'm going to have I'm going to have some guests on here to talk about these things too. Is that I think for a lot of men and women is that there's this culture that we have to do more, that we have to be more, and we don't stop to look at the emotions that are fueling that. And I know for me, those emotions were not an act of self love. More of an act of self love is me actually stopping and saying, why do I believe that about myself? Why do I believe I'm not doing enough? Why do I believe that I don't like myself or that I'm not worthy of my own self love? Because I think we talk about self love a lot in our society. And I don't know if we talk enough about how self love is really about examining all the things that you don't want to see, because that is the greatest act of self-love that you can do for yourself, is to figure out where are those feelings coming from. And they're negative and we don't want to feel them, or we call them negative, but they can really be our friend. They can be our tool, because they give us this broader picture of ourselves instead of us covering it up and going, oh, I don't want to feel that, I don't want to feel that, I'm gonna just cover it up and I'm gonna do more for me, I'm gonna more self-love. But really, to stop and pause and feel those feelings is hard. I mean, I cried a lot when I had to sit down and admit that I did not like myself, that I didn't like my body, and that I was upset with myself. And I've had to rest a lot in the last few weeks, and that's been a little bit difficult because I am a person on the go, but I'm learning how to shift this. And I want to actually figure out what's going on with me, what is best for me, and what I can do about it. And that is really about self love. About, for me, it's slowing down and listening. And that's really a great act of self love that you can do for yourself, is to slow down, to listen to all the thoughts, all the patterns, all the things that you're repeating. And, then you can really turn those things around, because you are listening to yourself and all the messages that you're giving to yourself. So I'm encouraging everyone to do that. I love you to leave comments if you've been through something similar and you feel like sharing, or you can always send me a private message as well, on my different social media channels. And that's it for today, and I hope everyone has a great day. Bye.